Hi, and welcome to Next Gen View. I'm your co-host, Bobby Umar, and I'm thrilled that you've joined us today because we have a great topic. The Next Gen View is really all about giving you a voice, the next generation or youth or Gen Y. And giving you a voice is really a big part of who I am, what I'm all about. And we're hoping that you can actually get involved behind the scenes of the show. And if you want to get involved, contact us anytime. But on top of that, we actually are on Twitter, and we actually have a hashtag, NextGenView. So if you have something you want to say about this topic or other topics, just tweet us with the hashtag NextGenView, and we'll tweet it to everyone else as well, and we can see what you have to say. A blog post, a video blog, a document, anything you want to share with us, by all means, please do that. Our topic today is fighting for equality, and we have an amazing panel. We've got Barbara Hall, the former mayor of Toronto, and she's now the Chief Commissioner for the Ontario Human Rights Council. And on top of that, we have Michael Lorsch, who is a facilitator and motivational speaker for Free the Children. And he's done a lot of great talks, not only in Canada, but also in around the world, talking about injustice and inequality. So that panel is going to be coming up next with our awesome co-host, Trayvon. And I want to share a bit about equality and why it's important, because every single person out there has value, has dignity. And we need to understand that fighting for equality happens all the time, whether it's small or whether it's large. Now, for me personally, I actually had a situation where I felt downtrodden upon. I felt like I wasn't being heard. And part of my weakness and my vulnerability was the fact that, number one, I didn't know who to ask for help or where to ask for help, or even if I should ask for help. And number two, I didn't know what my rights were. So the first thing, as soon as I asked for help, someone pointed me in a direction, and I got a website that told me all the different rights I had, whether it's rights as an employee, rights as a parent, rights as a son or a daughter. These are all the things that we need to know about. So knowledge is power, and so empowering myself with that really helped me figure out who I was, and then I was able to fight for that equality for myself and for my life. Because if you're not going to fight for yourself, who will? On top of that, fighting for equality doesn't go just for yourself, but it goes beyond community, the world, all of society. So think about that, because when you take on a cause that's bigger and better than yourself, you will have greater impact, and you'll have more cause and more purpose and more drive to make that difference. And that difference will actually affect not only just yourself, but also the rest of society. So I encourage you all to get involved in figuring out what you want to fight for equality. So coming up next is our panel. We'll see you soon, and we'll talk about that. Thanks.
Hello and welcome back to Next Gen View. I'm about to introduce our very special guests, Michael David Lorsch and Barbara Hall. First of all, welcome to our panel.
Thanks for having us.
So, what instances of inequality are you aware of in the city of Toronto or the world at large?
Wow, big question. I had the Ontario Human Rights Commission, and so my focus is discrimination that exists within the province of Ontario. And sadly, despite us having a human rights code for 50 years, there are still many, many examples of discrimination based on the 17 different grounds in the code, which range from race to age, gender, sexual orientation, disability, 17 different grounds. And probably the biggest area where that comes up is in employment. Clearly people are most concerned about things that affect their ability to earn a living and care for their family. And we should all be concerned about that, because the kind of health and safety in our city requires that everyone be able to contribute what they have to dealing with the issues and the economy of our communities.
And specifically outside of the city of Toronto, with my work with Free the Children, we really work to look at inequality around the world within the 8 countries that we do currently work. And we look to see what that inequality necessarily looks like. So whether that's a need for education, a need for clean water projects or food security projects, all of the elements a community or a household or a family might need to start balancing out to break out of that cycle of poverty too. So That's global, and locally, of course, we also focus on empowering young people, specifically from a diversity of communities, to start becoming leaders within their own community.
How does one become part of the Free the Children organization?
Yeah, there's many ways to become part of the movement of Free the Children in Midawee. You can come to We Day for one. That's one of the big ways a lot of people get involved with the organization, but there's also campaigns throughout the year that can help work towards those international development projects. We have a campaign coming up later this year, or early in the school year, called We Create Change, which was Canada's largest penny drive last year, and this year it's actually going to be focused around the quarter, and that's all going to go to, I believe it's to clean water projects. It was last year. However, it is also our year of education, so we may be focusing on that realm too.
Okay. How does it make you feel, or like even your loved ones? Like, how does it make them feel?
Well, terrible. I mean, one of the things about discrimination based on human rights is it really goes to people's core, their gut. It's about who they are, self-esteem. So let me give you an example. We've done a lot of work on racial profiling, and we hear a lot from young racialized people, mostly male, who talk about from a very early age how they're made to feel because of the response of security forces to them. And that's what discrimination is about. It's things that go to your essence. And it really is sort of messing with your soul. It's very serious stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think in my day-to-day work, when I'm getting to work with young people, I can share in this idea that it really gets to our core of who we are. And when often we have this fear of hopelessness that comes in when you're facing an inequality that seems so much bigger than you are. A lot of anger that can rise from that too. And fortunately enough, I've seen a lot of young people that I've had the opportunity to work with be able to take that anger and put it into action instead of resulting in apathy.
Well, have you guys tried to prevent these issues, or how have you guys tried to solve these instances?
Well, at the Commission, we have a broad mandate, and a lot of our work is public education. It's about teaching people that stereotypes get in the way of people having the respect they're entitled to. And so education is one piece, but education can take a long time. And we also work in terms of complaints, intervening in cases. We work with employers and educators, for example, on ways to change the culture of organization. We can do inquiries, public inquiries into systemic issues, as well as initiate complaints using the tribunal and the court system to educate people that they have responsibilities. Human rights is one about rights, but it's also about responsibilities.
Right.
And if people don't meet their responsibilities, then there are penalties.
Yeah, and I think in working with young people, one of the biggest things I hear is that they don't feel seen, that they don't feel heard necessarily in their struggles, whether that be with inequality or something else. So what I try and do in my work, and hopefully it's successful, is give opportunity to hear those stories and share those stories in any way, because I was told once that the easiest way to change somebody's mind is to tell them a story. And I've been impacted by so many stories that I've heard coming from, whether that's coming from an all-for Indigenous school in Saskatchewan called the Skyac, and the amazing stories that came out of there, or this wonderful girl in North Battleford, Saskatchewan as well, who, she was suffering from cystic fibrosis and faced a grand inequality in that sense in working within her community, but she was so passionate about water projects that she used her story to raise money for that. So really using your voice is so important, and that's what I've tried to do in my work with young people.
Well, thank you guys so much for having this panel discussion with me. We are going to be back with Bobby Umar, and we're going to all share the final thought. Hello, and we are back with Next Gen View discussing the fight for equality, and we have Bobby joining our panel discussion.
Hey guys.
Hello, Bobby.
Thanks so much for this. It was a great discussion. I really enjoyed what you guys were talking about. I had one more question for the panel, though, which was, what do you think others can do to try to prevent issues of inequality out there?
Well, I think firstly is to understand the rights that exist. People, if they know their rights, can be empowered to promote them and advance them. Also to know the responsibilities. Where are the places where we have obligations under legislation like the Human Rights Code or the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And I think the other thing is to try around you and create an environment of respect and opportunities for people to talk and get to know. There are so many groups of people in our society who don't know each other, where the focus and the interrelationships are based on stereotypes, instead of having opportunities to sit down and say, tell me about why you do that, and understanding of where everyone comes from in our diverse Toronto and Ontario.
Yeah, and I'm going to echo what you said, Barbara, in that you need to stand tall and you need to share your truth. You need to tell your stories. And I really think that's when people have an emotional connection to an issue, they're gonna come with this understanding and this compassion more, and even if it is a room for compromise that they're looking for, they're gonna find it in that emotional connection. So storytelling.
Right, stories. And every single person here has a story. All right, so I'd like to thank the panel for being here today. Michael Lorish from Free the Children and Barbara Hall from the OHRC. We're really glad you were here today and talking about fighting for equality. The fight for equality is something that cuts to the very core of who we are and what we're all about, because every single one of us has a heart, a soul, a spirit. We have our own value, and we need to be heard. We need to have a voice. And when you take the time to invest and fight for people's equality, you are showing compassion, you are sharing your emotional involvement, and you're being part of their story. And ultimately, you're basically respecting their dignity and their right to be who they are and to live their life the best way they possibly can. So thanks so much for joining us on the Next Gen View. We'll see you next week. I'm your co-host, Bobby Umar, and we'll see you soon. Thanks so much.